Imagine this. You've just crushed a presentation. You're walking back to your desk, feeling a rare moment of okayness, when your boss or a friend looks you dead in the eye and says, "Wow, you were incredible. You're actually a genius." For most people, that's a hit of social sunshine. But for you, it feels like they just handed you a live grenade. Your heart rate spikes, your eyes dart to the exit, and before your brain can even process the "thank you," your mouth has already blurted out, "Oh, it was nothing. I actually messed up slide 4, and honestly, the coffee did most of the work." Sound familiar? You're not being rude. You're not even being modest. You're actually navigating a high-speed internal alarm system that just went off in your prefrontal cortex. Today, we're diving into the neuroscience of why we treat praise like a hot potato, and why, for many of us, a compliment feels less like a gift and more like a debt we can never repay. And stick around, because by the end of this video, I'm going to show you the 2-minute cognitive reset that helps you stop the imposter spiral before it ruins your day. In the world of psychology, we often talk about low self-esteem, but that's a bit of a lazy label. The truth is much more fascinating. It's called cognitive dissonance. See, your brain craves one thing above all else: consistency. It has a very specific map of who you are, your self-concept. This map is built over decades. It tells you, "I am a hard worker," "I am average looking," or "I am someone who struggles with public speaking." When someone hands you a compliment that contradicts that internal map, it creates a psychological glitch. If your internal map says you're just okay, and someone tells you you're brilliant, your brain doesn't think, "Oh, how nice." It thinks, "Warning, data mismatch. This information does not fit the hardware." It feels like someone is trying to sell you a version of yourself that you haven't bought yet. And because the brain prizes being right about itself over being happy, it will actually work overtime to push that positive information away just to keep the status quo. It's like if a stranger walked up to you and insisted the sky was neon green. You wouldn't feel flattered by their unique perspective. You'd feel confused and suspicious of their eyesight. When your self-assessment is average and someone calls you exceptional, your brain treats that kind word like a calculated lie or a massive misunderstanding. It's basically your brain saying, "I know the truth about the laundry pile in my bedroom, Karen. Your organized comment is a lie." When most people receive a compliment, their brain's reward system lights up with dopamine. It's the same chemical hit you get from winning a $20 scratcher or finding an extra fry at the bottom of the bag. However, for those of us who struggle with praise, research suggests that the brain's conflict detection centers, the anterior cingulate cortex, are what actually fire up. Instead of a reward, your brain registers a threat. You start looking for the catch. Are they saying this because they want a favor? Are they just being polite because they feel sorry for me? Or worse, have I accidentally tricked them into thinking I'm better than I actually are? This is the gateway to imposter syndrome. In this state, a compliment isn't a gift, it's a social debt. You feel like now that they've praised you, you have to maintain this false high standard forever. And the weight of that expectation is exhausting. I want to pause here because this is a shared experience for so many of us in this community. I want to hear from you in the comments. What is the one specific compliment that always makes you feel the most exposed? Is it about your intelligence, your appearance, your work ethic? For me, whenever someone says I'm calm, I'm secretly thinking about the 14 browser tabs open in my brain that are currently on fire. let's talk about our hot potatoes in the comments. If you find yourself nodding along, there's a high chance you belong to what researchers call the Gen X or Xennial generations. Why does this matter? Because childhood in the late 70s, 80s, and early 90s was a masterclass in high-contingency environments. For many of us, feedback was frequent, but usually only when things went wrong. We were the latchkey generation. Independence wasn't a choice, it was the default. In these homes, praise was often absent, or it was conditional. You were praised for the grade on the paper, not the human being holding it. When you grow up in a world where the rug can be pulled out at any moment, a compliment starts to feel like a pink slip in disguise. You learn to stay under the radar. To a child of that era, being noticed, even for something good, meant you were now being watched. And being watched in that worldview is the first step toward being judged. If you aren't noticed, you're safe. If you're praised, you're a target. No wonder your adult brain wants to deflect. Cognitive psychologists describe this as deeper encoding. If you've spent 30 years integrating the idea that you are the one who just gets things done without needing a pat on the back, your brain has physically built itself around that identity. Information that requires effort to obtain, like a hard-won self-image, becomes permanently integrated into your neural architecture. A random compliment at a party hasn't put in the work to change that structure. It's like trying to move a brick wall with a feather. This leads us to a fascinating survival strategy: defensive pessimism. You expect the floor to be cold. You prepare for the floor to be cold. So when someone tells you, "Hey, the floor is actually warm and lovely," you don't take your shoes off. You just suspect the heater is about to break and the bill is going to be huge. It's a protective mechanism. If you never accept the high of the praise, you never have to deal with the low when it's taken away. There's also a tribal element to this that goes back thousands of years. For our ancestors, being part of the group meant survival. If you stood out too much, even for being the best, it could create friction. It could trigger envy or change your status in a way that felt risky. Some of us have what I call high tribal sensitivity. We don't want to bask in reflected glory. We don't want to be the millionaires on the screen being cheered for. We want to be the participants in our own lives, not the spectators. To us, a compliment feels like a spotlight. And if you're someone who finds restoration in solitude and quiet rituals, that spotlight feels less like a reward and more like an interrogation. This is especially true if you have low stimulation preferences. If your brain is wired for depth over noise, a loud, public compliment is sensory overload. Your prefrontal cortex starts throwing a party of introspection. You're not just hearing the words, you're analyzing the tone, the timing, the social implications, and whether or not there's spinach in your teeth. While an extrovert is enjoying the buzz, you're busy calculating the social cost of the interaction. You're not being difficult. You're just processing at a different frequency. In some cultures, there is a much deeper respect for the space between people. In Japan, for instance, there's a concept often associated with the term hitori, the celebration of being alone, or the autonomy of the self. In the West, we're taught we should always be on. We're told that if we don't accept a compliment with a beaming smile and a "thank you," we're being ungrateful. But there is a quiet power in recognizing that you don't have to perform if it feels dishonest to your internal state. You're allowed to exist at your own table before you bring your whole self to the social table. You don't owe the world a performance of confidence if what you're actually feeling is quiet competence. So, how do we stop the hot potato reflex? How do we stop the glitch from ruining a perfectly good moment? It starts with acknowledging the neural gap. The next time someone pays you a compliment and you feel that familiar urge to say, "Oh, it was a team effort," or "I got it on clearance," I want you to try the table method. Notice the glitch. Literally say to yourself, "My brain is currently rejecting this data because it doesn't match my map." This takes the emotion out of it and turns it into a science experiment. The sit rule. Instead of throwing the hot potato back at them by deflecting, just let it sit on the table. The script. Use the simplest sentence in the English language. "Thank you. I appreciate you saying that." That's it. You don't have to believe the compliment yet. You don't have to rewrite your entire internal map in 5 seconds. You just have to let the information exist in the room without killing it. Think of it like a software update. Your brain is going to say "update failed" a few times. That's okay. Just click "try again tomorrow." If you struggle to take a compliment, I want you to hear this. You aren't broken, and you aren't ungrateful. You are just a person with a high standard for internal consistency and a deep respect for the truth of your own experience. Your brain is a sophisticated machine designed to protect you. It's okay that it takes a while to trust the good things people say about you. After all, you've spent a lifetime building your own internal compass. It makes sense that you'd check the weather yourself before believing someone else when they say it's sunny. If this exploration of the unseen side of social interaction felt like a missing piece of the puzzle for you, I want you to type the word "mirror" in the comments. It represents that reflection of ourselves we see through others' eyes, the one we're still learning how to look at without blinking.